Hey everybody, welcome to Smile Girl, Don't Be Nervous. I am Juana, I am the mom.
And I'm Esperanza, I'm the daughter. Damn!
We are Smile. So sorry. Hey man, you said, was you ready?
Well,
I was ready to go.
I
was ready. Alright, so first of all, I'm going to apologize because this episode is going to have a lot of storytelling. And I have been super sick the last week. The last episode that we recorded, if you notice, I started to get like this little tickle in my throat. And then it turned out to be like a full-blown like herd of frogs in there. So,
she's been coughing her soul up.
Yeah, every time I feel like my soul comes out every time. So, I just want to give you a heads up if we sound, or if I sound a little bit weird. Yeah, because you didn't even get sick. I don't know how you didn't get sick. So that's what's going on there. So I just wanted to give you a heads up. So if I start hacking, I promise I'm okay. Just give me a second to regroup and then I'll start all over. So we have some great holidays this week. We had to update our holidays because we had taken the 2-month break, and I feel, you know how we always say like everything happens for a reason, and everything just kind of falls perfectly into place for us, like at some given point, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes we have to wait a minute for it, but it all just kind of is kismet the way that it comes together. So our holidays that we have coming up, I totally want to say this first. I'm so sorry. I'm super excited for today. Today is June 2nd that we are recording, and today Mexico elects their first female president in the country, and I am so beyond moved about that. It took me forever to stop crying this morning because this is a really big deal for Mexico. I feel like the gender roles are changing in Mexico, and so I am super excited about that. I am in counseling, and you have had to work through some things on the gender roles based on how we were raised.
Oh, the flower disappeared.
So this is a really big thing for a woman president in Mexico to happen, and I am so super excited. I got my green pants on. So I am in.
Dude, she comes in this morning after waking me up. She
colors.
goes, "Does this look okay?" I was like, "You look like Christmas."
So I am super excited about this, and I just want to share a personal story right off before we get into this. The first time I met my paternal grandparents, I was super nervous about it because the only Spanish that I had learned was taking Spanish from school, right? And so I started taking Spanish in 7th grade and went all the way up until 12th grade. So I was in the super pretty fluent, Spanish classes, and I was in there with my bestie Jenna, so big shout out to Jenna for hooking a girl up because she knows Spanish better than I do. That was where I learned my Spanish. Well, the Spanish that they teach in school is like Castilian Spanish, like from Spain Spanish. Mm-hmm. But when you're from Mexico, as you know, if you are Spanish speaking, each dialect is very different. So the Puerto Ricans have more of a TH sound, whereas like we roll our R's, in Mexico. And so things are a little bit different. The Castilian Spanish is more like the proper Spanish, so like the higher class Spanish, whereas the Mexico is a lot of slang, right? So sometimes we speak Spanglish, right? And so I switch in and out, like we do, like when you ask for the palita or, and everybody's like, the what?
And I'm always like, how do you say that in English? I'm like, the dustpan.
There you go. Yeah. That thing goes with the broom.
And I'm like, the thingy.
You're right?
They're like, the dustpan? I'm like, yeah.
The language barrier really is a struggle sometimes. And so that was how I learned Spanish. The first time I had met my paternal grandparents, because they are from deep Mexico. So my family is originally from Zacatecas, Mexico. And they had come up, they had gone over to my uncle's house. I was super close with my cousin Paula at the time, And I was super nervous. I was like, oh my God, like, what if they don't like me? Right? So I had gone in and I was asking my grandma a question, and she kept looking at her husband. And I asked Paula, I was like, what is going on? And she said, well, she has to ask for permission to speak. Now, I realize that you guys think that I have a temper. Sometimes it comes out like when we're recording, and you know, sometimes like you see the edge of it, like if I work with you or I have worked with you, or you know, we have been friends or family for a really long time. But when I am 18, 19, meeting my grandparents for the first time, and my attitude was out of control back then. And so I was like, excuse me? She was like, yeah, like, you know, in that, you know, in the culture, the wives have to ask the husbands for permission to speak. And let me tell you what, is you don't think you're as fluent in a language until you actually like have emotion behind it. And let me tell you what, I was telling him off 3 times from Sunday on how this is bullshit and like she is a human, like she shouldn't have to ask permission and so I'm losing my shit. And my cousin's like, no, like, because here I am disrespecting my grandpa who I just met for the first time, and my grandma is crying. And I'm like, you will not. And that was my first lesson in learning how different the Mexico culture is from Cheyenne, Wyoming, you know, America. And it really opened up my eyes to that. After that altercation, because my grandpa thought it was the funniest thing, and I'm like, what? Like, I just told you off. You know,
you think I'm funny?
And my grandma is just crying, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, Grandma. You know what I mean? Like, I totally didn't mean to like disrespect you. I didn't understand. Like, this is like the thing that I totally like vehemently disagree with, like on every shape, level, form, whatever. And I all of a sudden became like, you know, the favorites, I guess. And before I left, she got up, and of course she's talking so fast in Spanish, and I can't, you know, understand half of what she's saying. And she is super Catholic, right? So I'm getting ready to leave, and she gets up, and you know, she's doing her prayers, and she's like this close to me, and she's like doing this and all the Catholic movements, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
You know, not understanding. And that was when Paula was explaining that she was just, you know, giving me blessings and, you know, saying the prayers of the saints, and she just wished me the best, and she wanted me to stay in school. The reason why she was so impactful to me is because after I graduated, I was working like 50, 60 hours a week at Walmart, and I was cross-trained in like 23 different areas of the store, so I was there all the time. And while I was there, I learned that she had passed away, and I was like, she wanted me to stay in school, and I enrolled into that summer semester after that. After I talked to the guy's grandma that I was dating, and she actually paid for my first class to be in college until my financial aid kicked in so I could go full-time that next semester. So she was a really, really, really big catalyst in my education and really stepping into my role as a Mexican woman. And so to know that there is a woman president being elected, I am just beyond excited, because that will do amazing things for the women in Mexico and in other countries as well, because we finally get to get out of that role that we all habitually do. I swear it's genetic, but that we all mentally just fucking hate. you know, because we are so much better than servants.
Yeah.
In every relationship. So, I'm super excited about that. Super excited about that. It makes me so emotional, so I'm so sorry. This is a big deal for me. So our holidays coming up, which will lead us into our podcast today, is we have Flag Day on June 14th.
Oh, hang on.
Buddy.
So,
Yeah.
a year ago is the day that I graduated high school.
Oh, man, you're so old now.
Fuck you. You were fucking out of high school for like what?
Okay, I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
like,
Shut up.
That's been a lot of years.
Exactly. And hopefully this time next year I'll have my license.
Yes. I'm so excited for you. You know, like you graduated early, and you did take a semester off, but now you are doing the damn thing, and I think you're going to be so good at it. Like, everybody already wants your services. I swear you need cards. I went to go pick up some food from Jersey Mike's, and I'm there, and I am just getting back from a doctor's appointment, and I am just tirada. Like,
Yeah.
I am just a mess, right? And I'm just like, man, I just want to get some food and go home, because of course I don't have any fucking groceries at home. And so I pull up, and I am digging for my card, because, you know, I just didn't register that I have to pay for it.
Yeah, sometimes it just doesn't.
Right?
I'm like, food.
Yes!
Oh, wait.
Oh, wait, you need money.
I gotta pay for this.
Hang on, let me look for my stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for my card, and I turn around, she's like, oh my god, I love your hair. And I'm like, my daughter is a student over at Basics. Go see her. She will hook you up. Every time. So I need your little cards.
I need to make cards.
Yeah, you do. So if anybody wants services, please go find her at Basics. She's there. What are your hours?
Monday through Thursday, 9 to 5.
9 to 5. Yep. So make an appointment. She'd love to do services for you. Is there anything that you're not trained in yet? Well, what can you do now? What can you do like right now? You do cuts, colors, perms.
Highlights, lowlights, can do nails. I'm not really the best at like acrylic. But I can do gel, genre, pedicures, facials, waxings. Can't do eyelashes yet. Can't do anything like brow lifts or anything like that. Or brow.
Was it lamination?
There you go.
Yeah.
Or eyelash tint or eyelash lifts. Yeah.
Okay. So that's coming.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So book your services with her. Hook it up. We will put the Basics information on the screen, so that you can give her a holla. Okay. So going back to the holidays for this week, we have Flag Day on June 14th. I love America. My favorite holiday is the 4th of July. Oh my gosh, you want to see me get crazy? Hit me up on 4th of July. And then National Smile Power Day is June 15th, which I was like, hey, like, wear smile, right? The power that smile has. But that's totally not what that's for. It's talking about the simplicity of the power of a smile. We personally get so angry, like, when we smile at people, and they're just like, they don't smile back, or they're just like, and you're like, you know what? I take my smile back.
Yeah.
Have a day you deserve then, because gross. But yeah, just the simple power of a smile is enough to just lift somebody's day, you know. Father's Day is June 16th, so big shout out to all them great fathers out there that are there for their kids and do the things they do and support them. Appreciate you.
Love you.
There's some good men out there. Yeah. And then
I want to say Happy Valentine's Day to my mommy.
Oh.
Because she's my mommy.
She's so funny. Double duty there. Double duty.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so our next holiday, which will direct us to our podcast today, is Juneteenth. It is June 19th. I didn't really understand what this holiday was for, so I looked it up really quick right before we got on air. And June 19th, 1865, Major General Granger ordered the final enforcement of the Emancipation Proclamation in Texas at the end of the American Civil War. So Juneteenth marks the end of slavery.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, like this is a big deal. I didn't quite understand what it was for before. Honestly, I had no idea. I was just like, oh, yay, we get another federal holiday, so it's paid time off.
Literally.
Right? Like, but I didn't quite know that was as big of a deal as it is. So I'm super excited to see that coming up. I have heard some comments just in passing that, you know, oh, well, Juneteenth, like, that's not celebrating that. And I'm like, so now that I know what it's for, I'm like, what are you trying to say?
Yeah.
You know? So that leads us into our quote for today.
Wait, hang on. Remember, share, like,
right. Yep, my bad.
Jesus
my bad.
Christ,
all right,
dude.
go ahead. Say it.
No, nah.
This
is your thing.
Out.
Yep.
Yeah, that's wrong. So remember to like, share.
Remember to like, share, and hit the bell for notifications when our episodes drop.
We are on time now. We should be on time now. But there was a week, I think this week that we're recording, that we dropped a double episode. So thank you for the comments that we have been receiving. I love getting comments. So I have been replying back. We have been trying to keep up on posting as well. So we're trying to get updated with that. So spoiler alert warning as well. We will be talking about some situations that happen in this book series, as well as future events that happen, you know, before and after the quote itself. We will also be talking about past and future quotes as well. And then major trigger warnings is we will be talking about segregation, as the title of this episode explains. So do what you can for self-care. This will be a pretty in-depth episode. We're not going to try and keep it as grim as we did the fear and bigotry episode. That was a pretty intense one.
Yeah, that one is.
Yeah, so these are big subjects that we tackle here. There are a lot of subjects that need to tackle about.
You didn't even say about, you just said taco.
And it's the habit. Want to talk about it?
Yeah, I did say that.
And these are big things that do need to be discussed and be out in the open in order for solutions to come about. So we are not afraid to tackle those solutions here. That is for sure. So the quote that we are going to review today is segregation breeds ignorance and ignorance breeds fear. How do you feel about that quote?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you understand it?
Well,
What do you not understand?
can we do a definition really quick?
Yeah, of
Ignorance.
ignorance. Okay, so ignorance is the not knowing of. Right? So, I am, we just talked about this yesterday. I am ignorant in sketching. Like, I don't know what it entails. I don't know what shapes I'm supposed to be looking for. I can draw the best stick figures ever.
Yeah.
Right? But I don't know how to draw like a face or an eye or, you know, sketch a scene from nature. I can take a photo of it, but I can't do sketching. So I'm ignorant in that aspect.
Okay.
Okay? So does that make sense now?
Yes.
Segregation breeds ignorance and ignorance breeds fear.
Yes.
Okay. What do you think about it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen anything like this? And it doesn't necessarily have to be about color, like just ignorance in general. For example, I'll give you like an example. Some people are afraid of snakes,
Yeah.
right? But not knowing that not all snakes are poisonous,
Right.
right? So you see a snake, and some people don't know that you don't have to be afraid of that one. That they're more afraid of you than you are of it.
Yeah.
But they're like, oh my God, it's poisonous, and then they, you know,
Freak out.
yeah, get crazy about it. Not knowing that one isn't gonna
It's just a
harm
garden
you.
snake.
Yeah. I don't know the difference, and I'm just like, ooh. I mean, that's so pretty, right? And so, like,
You should probably learn the difference of those.
I really should, but I mean, like, tell me I didn't stop the car in the middle of the road when I took a picture of the snake
Facts.
the other day. Like,
And that one was poisonous, for the record.
I'm sure it was. I'm like, it's so pretty. I'm gonna take a picture of this just real quick. Like,
You went straight Gen X, or not Gen X, Gen Z there, for the
I
record.
sure did. I know.
Because you said pink instead of chink.
Right, well, because it was on my phone.
Right, but still, how do you pick up a phone? And not this.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know. Not that I can think of right now, but I'm sure there's...
Like the popular girls, or like the skater kids, or like the goth kids, which I was totally friends with everybody. So,
I was too.
Yeah. But do you see other kids be afraid of those kids? Whoever those kids are. You know, you see it in movies, you know, where like the geeks and the nerds are always afraid of the popular kids.
Yeah.
And, like Mean Girls.
I mean, like, so, I was part of the popular crowd.
Yeah.
Just because I knew everybody.
Right.
But I did see, like, those kids that were like, oh my god, they're coming. We gotta go.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
like, the fuck? Hi guys.
Right.
Like,
You can exist.
yeah, it's
okay.
okay.
Yeah.
We're all in the same school.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. And so I did see that, but like, and I try to like acknowledge those kids when I was with those groups of people, because like, not all of us are so mean.
Right. Right.
But they don't know that.
Right. Like
'Cause
when
they
you
had-
opened up the door for that girl.
Yeah, like,
Tell that story.
So I was at school at McCormick.
Was that McCormick? Were we in Cheyenne?
I think so.
Okay.
And I was wearing, I don't remember what the fuck I was wearing. But it was like
You
a
always
pretty...
went to school like just in the cutest
Yeah.
outfits that you could make up at
and
that
it was,
point in
I was
time.
pristine. Like,
Yeah.
I was to the nines.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Very business casual
Yeah.
or business professional
Yeah.
was what you did when we were in Cheyenne
Yeah.
for school.
and I had my hair curled, my makeup was done, and this girl was behind me, and we were getting ready to walk into the school, and I held the door for her because I always hold doors for people.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, okay, like, she's like, thank you, and I was like, of course, like, I hope you have a great day. And she like turned around, she's like, oh, you're nice, and I was like,
Yeah.
yes. And she's like, you're just so pretty, I didn't know you were gonna be nice. And I was like, thank you.
Yeah, I mean the that is out there though,
Yeah.
because there are some like really pretty girls that you're just like, oh my god, you're so pretty, and they're like, thanks, and you're like, and it's gone.
Now
Never mind.
you're just fucking ugly. We used to have this poster in the gym in Centennial, and like you walked in and it like turned, so you wouldn't see people that were getting dressed as you were
Obviously.
walking in.
Right.
But like in this hallway before you took the turn, it had a poster and it said, an ugly personality can turn a pretty face ugly.
Yeah.
And I was
True.
like, I never
so
knew like
true.
what it meant until I experienced it, and I was like, yeah.
So true.
now you're
so true.
fucking ugly.
Mm-hmm. And you're a dick on top of
Yeah.
it, so that's just great.
Yeah.
No winning strikes for you whatsoever.
No, yeah. Oh, my foot's so asleep.
So, in the context of this quote, Zoe is talking with Shakina. We are in the House of Night. PC Cast, Kristen Cast wrote this series. We are in the book Untamed still, which is, I believe, book 4. And Zoe is talking with Shakina, who is one of the high priestesses from the board. Not the board, the panel. Board, council, sorry.
Wow.
All of my positions just ran through my head.
That was crazy.
About having a flea market sale sponsored by the Dark Daughters with all the money going to street cats. Now, the Dark Daughters is like a sorority that is part of the House of Night, and it has, you know, a lot of the good patrons, right, of the House of Night that want to go out and do good into the world, kind of giving the House of Night a good name. Right? And so that's what their main purpose is. And all of the money is going to the street cats. We talked a little bit in depth about street cats last episode, but street cats is kind of like the Casper Humane Society here. They are focused strictly on cats, and the House of Night really wants to partner with them because cats are generally, I think there's one dog. Cats are generally the familiars for the fledglings, for the vampire fledglings. So Shakina tells Zoe that she is giving Zoe complete autonomy to decide how she wants to do her charity work, because charity work is one of the tenets of the Dark Daughters. They are supposed to be out doing charity work. She agrees with Zoe that the more interaction with the local population is a good idea. Then she says this line. Okay, so then she says segregation breeds ignorance and ignorance breeds fear. We talked a little bit about fear and bigotry, about how the House of Night is very separate from Tulsa, Oklahoma, right? And so when they go out into the general population of Tulsa, they have to cover their mark, and so it's just to protect them from receiving all of the, segregation and racism and any other interactions that they may receive while they are outside of their element, right? So I fully agree with this, because I think culture needs to really be a huge part of education. I really do. I am integrating, culture into the program that I'm writing with the Office of the Guardian Ad Litems, because I think it's so imperative, especially here in Wyoming, where we don't have as much as, say, like New York or LA, or the really bigger cities. So I think that's really important to be exposed to those kinds of things, in order to start understanding, why it is that certain cultures do certain things. Why do they go to mosque? Why do they have to pray, 6-7 times a day?
Right.
I don't understand that. Why were they persecuted in the Holocaust? Like those kinds of things. And I think if people have those answers to those questions, there would be a lot less hatred. There wouldn't be the segregation. There wouldn't be an us versus them, or white versus black, or colored versus whites, or whatever. I really think all of that would be disseminated against if we had those answers. Right? A Day in the Life of, really does a lot. If you think about like a simple movie like Freaky Friday, where the daughters and moms switch and they have to live in each other's respective worlds, like that gives them perspective, and their relationship is so much better when they come back too. She understands the 17 different phones her mom's carrying, and the clients that she has to deal with day in and out. And then she understands what it's like to be in high school again. And sometimes as an adult, you forget what that's like, right? And so bringing that perspective really into like focus there, I think would help a lot of the misunderstandings and misrepresentations and the generalizations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Personally. So the article that we're going to cover is called "Why Do Stereotypes and Prejudice Exist and Persist" by Katie Nelson at the Colorado State University. So of course, starting off with some definitions, as we always do. The link will be in the bio, and as we always suggest, please read the article on your own. There are lots of things that are covered in every article that we share that we don't have enough time to cover every single tenet that they cover in the article. So there's lots of tidbits of information. I just pull what we need in order to kind of go over the quote, and get some new perspectives out there. But every peer-reviewed study that we do has lots of things that aren't included in the episodes. So
I was gonna leave mine in here so you could pick one.
I
was gonna remind you and everything.
I need to clean off my sink vanity so that I remember. Hey, put in a nose ring. I've forgotten it for like the last week, so that's why I'm checking it out.
There's a earring over there.
Yeah, and just stick it right in. It's blue. Totally matches. Alright, so stereotypes generate an assumption that every person of a group shares the same characteristics in which the group may have shown repeatedly in the past. So those are those generalizations. So just an example of that. Does that make sense? No? Okay. No, that's what I'm asking. So, what that means, and I'm looking at my second page here because I have examples of those stereotypes.
Can you just read that over again? I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. Stereotypes generate an assumption that every person of a group shares the same characteristics in which the group may have shown repeatedly in the past. Okay?
Okay.
So these are things like Mexicans are hard workers, Asians are smart, Caucasians are rich.
Right.
Like, those are those things that persist in society, and those generalizations that may not always be true, right? I know plenty of Mexicans that aren't hard workers.
Facts.
You know? And they're, you know, Asians are smart at math and science. There are some Asians that fucking hate math and science. You know what I mean? And so it's just that general thing, like 9/11. You know, Muslims all think that way. All Muslims think like, okay, what? Do you realize how dumb you sound?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's what they're talking about. So that's what a stereotype is. It's that overgeneralization of the action that this couple of people do it, and so that means everybody does it.
I mean, I get it. Like, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I am mixed. Like, my mom's Mexican, and my daddy is white. Okay? And so...
And then you get this beautifulness right here.
Pasty white. No. And I get it a lot because I'm like, people are like, oh, like, you're Mexican. You should... and I'm like, yeah, but I've never been to Mexico.
Right.
And they're like, why? And
Can you speak Spanish?
Yeah, I get that a lot. And I'm
what?
like...
I didn't know that was like a prerequisite to be in
I was born in Cheyenne,
like...
Wyoming. But, like, I'm like, yeah, no, like, I've never been to Mexico. And they're like, why? And I'm like...
Because she's a little white girl.
I'm white.
You know, like, the drug cartels are doing to little white girls in Mexico? Like,
I'll get kidnapped. And they're like, no, like, you're Mexican, you're fine. And I'm like, but I don't... I look Mexican. Okay, that's the problem.
Yeah, you have Mexican features.
But my skin tone is not dark.
Right.
So I'm a little white girl.
Right. And you've always been the little white girl. But in my family, I'm the little white girl.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm not, you know, my whole family, my whole biological family looks like the Pocahontas, right?
Yeah.
They're all like super teeny tiny, and they have just like the long black hair, you know, and it's super thick, and sometimes it's curly, and they have like the most amazing big almond brown eyes, you know, and here I am, I'm like, so I'm a little lighter, and like, my eyes are like green hazel.
But like you're full.
You know? Yeah. I mean, like, not totally full.
Right.
So I am Native American. We're thinking Apache. We haven't really verified that. So Native American, Mexican. Spanish, because my grandpa was both German and Spanish, and then German. So that's my mix. Right. So I am like, you know, maybe a quarter. But my dad was from Zacatecas, Mexico, and my mom was all of those things, right? So I am more Mexican than anything, but my skin tone does not show that, you know, because I do have the German hair color, so my natural hair color is more of a lighter brown. Yeah. It's not even like a dark brown or a black or anything. That it's like that kind of sandy
like mocha
brown. Yeah, you know, and you know, not quite coffee. Yeah. You know, but I generally tend to go towards the darker colors because
she's the light cappuccino,
right? Yeah, my regular hair color is the color I like my coffee, with more creamer than coffee. So, you know, that was frowned upon, you know, when I was growing up. You know, I'm bigger. I have that stout frame. You know, I have the more Mexican frame, as opposed to the Spanish frame where they all have. Yeah. You know, and my hair is light. You know, my eyes are light, and my dad's side of the family, I went to Vegas in December, and I met up with my cousin, who I love very much, Melinda. Big shout out to you. I love you, girl. You know, and she's like, I was talking to her, and I was talking about this guy, and she's like, "Oh my God, you guys would have beautiful babies because he had blue eyes," and I was like, "That's never gonna happen." But I like the idea. But she's right, you know what I mean. And both of my kids have pretty light eyes, because ironic. Well, no, your dad has hazel and Jeremy has blue, I think. So. It's always a thing. So like, you guys have the lighter eyes than all of your other cousins. And so it's just we look very different than what people assume we should look like.
Right.
So that's part of that stereotypical thing. And we all have them, and it's just, I don't even know. Like it's taught. Yeah. 'Cause it's not like something that, you see these little videos of the little, the little black babies and the little white babies, and they're just like, "This is my brother, and he's just like me," and I'm just like, oh my God, I love everything about that, because they don't see any of that. It's taught, and it's something that's raised, and it's ingrained into you, like, and it's knowing that is a thought that is perpetuated in society. It just makes me sick. I hate everything about it. So. Obviously, it negatively impacts people's self-concept because it diminishes their sense of individuality. So I was talked a lot. Like, my nickname when I was little was carne, which means meat in Spanish. Like, that was my nickname. So growing up, I always had this perception, like, I'm this huge girl, and it sucked. This other girl that I knew that I grew up with, she also had weight loss surgery, and her nicknames were all of the same things too. And once that gets into your mind, like, it's so hard to come away from.
Yeah.
So it negatively impacts your self-concept as well. So the process of stereotyping occurs by our brain's natural default to be efficient, using less energy to make connections and group information. We do the same thing, like, for an example, is in the color wheel. Okay, like, these colors go together, and these colors go together, and these colors go together. It's just easier for our brain. We look for patterns, in everything. Like, my OCD, if something is not, like, lined up just perfectly, like, I'm sitting there and I'm like...
Even the randomly spaced butterflies in her room?
Match here. Dude, my brain automatically does that. I'm like, yeah, this is random. I'm just going to put some tape on here to the wall, and it's going to be great, right? And then I'm sitting there and I'm like...
And they're all in lines.
And I don't know how. I truly do not know how. And I do it everywhere we move. And everywhere I set up those butterflies, I'm like, yeah, random. I'm just going to put them here and here. And I'm literally, like, when I'm putting them up, I'm like, there's one on this wall, and there's one on this wall, and then there's one over here, and I'm going to put this one up higher, and this one lower. And it comes out, and inevitably...
They're in lines.
They're in lines. Yeah. So we just subconsciously do these processing things in order to make things easier. So we form our personal stereotypes through exposure to certain beliefs that are presented repeatedly throughout our experience by our peers and elder, by the media, and by our culture. And so that's when we start categorizing people as we get older. Oh, well, I had this encounter with these people and they did this. I had this other encounter with these people and they did this. So that means everybody does this.
Well, you do it too.
What do you mean?
In Buffalo.
Yeah,
You're terrified to go to Buffalo because of the few experiences that you've had there.
Right. And so it goes...
Oh my God.
Are you okay?
My ankle hurts so bad.
Oh no. Is that the one that you rolled yesterday?
Yeah.
We were at a rodeo. We were at the WRA in Wright, Wyoming yesterday, and we were going back behind the chutes to get behind the chutes in order to get, like, video and pictures for 5F bucking bulls, and she stepped wrong, and so she, and I was like, oh my God.
I've rolled this ankle like 3 times.
Yeah.
In the last 4 weeks.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, and those judgments can be both good or bad.
Yeah.
There are some people who have interactions with Hispanic families, and they're like, oh man, every Hispanic family is great and huge, and they all have cookouts every Saturday. While family is a big thing, like, family is a big thing for us, that doesn't mean that we are out having family interactions every week. I look at envy at those families that do, because when my biological family gets together, like half of us end up in jail.
Yeah.
And so we just don't. And so there are a lot of
I've
cousins
never
that
been
we
to a
don't.
family reunion.
Ever. Me either. In my life.
Yeah.
You know, but I dated a guy who talked about he used to have family reunions before COVID, like every year. And they would all like get together and they would like fly in from everywhere. And I'm like, and you all get along? And he's like, I mean, like for the most part, and for, you know, the ones that we don't get along with, you know, we're definitely cordial with. And I'm like, that's wild to me. That is, like, my brain cannot even fathom that concept. And big family gatherings used to freak me out in the beginning. You know, with, when I would go to family functions with boyfriends, I'd be like, in the corner, like, blend it up, like,
Yeah.
you know, and even when I got into like my foster family, you know, I'm like, Terry, like, I feel super uncomfortable. Can you please just come to the bathroom with me? And she's like, yeah. And dude, we would take trips like 5 or 6 times to the bathroom, and I'm just like, okay, there's a lot of people out there. I don't know, like, am I saying the right thing? Like, am I dressed okay? And she's like, they don't care. We're here for Thanksgiving. Like, we're all just here to eat. And I'm like, I don't know how to handle that. Yeah. I don't, you know. And so it's just those things, you know.
Well, because, like, even for, like, the experience that automatically comes to my head, like, was my birthday this last year.
Okay.
Like, and I was having a panic attack. Just because, like, there was a lot going on. There was a lot of people around me, like... And I asked Mom, I was like, can you please just go for a walk with me?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, well, no, like, you got your man with you, like, go with him. And I'm like, no, like, can you please just go on a walk with me? And it didn't comprehend to her that I needed her.
Yeah, I had no idea. I was like, no, man, you brought your man, go with your man, you know, like.
And I was like, no, like, please go for a walk with me. And she's like, no, like, for real. I'm like, you know what, fine.
I had no idea. She could have texted me. She could have texted me and let somebody know.
I was like, fuck. But it's just because we don't know how to handle those big crowds.
Right.
And we don't know how to...
Well, because it's just been us.
Yeah.
You know? And now that we're actually getting, like, a good circle, finally, and cutting out all the negativity out of our lives, our circle's starting to expand, and we have, you know, bigger groups of friends and family around us now, and it's new. It's definitely new, and it's something that, you know, we have to, like, ease into a little bit, you know. But those stereotypes form, like, every Hispanic family has a big family, and you're like,
there's 3 of us.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big family. Or those people that are like, yeah, well, like, you must have, like, 7, 8 brothers and sisters. I'm like, whoa.
I have 1.
I got, like, 2.
Yeah, you have 2.
Like, what the fuck?
Which is crazy, because Anthony has, like, 5? 4? 5?
I don't know.
5?
But I also, like, I have another sibling that isn't really my sibling, but I consider my sibling.
Yeah.
Which is Kaden.
Right.
Like,
right. Yeah.
But we're not really related, but we are.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Because he came with the package.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So we have created our own family.
And, like, I have 3 god siblings.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so people are like, how many siblings do you have? I'm like, hang on. Real siblings, I got 2. But other siblings that I consider my siblings, I've got like 8 or 9.
But if you look at those real siblings, they're half.
Yeah.
You know? And so that's
I don't like people that say that's my half brother or half sister.
No,
I'm like, that's my brother. That's my sister.
I have never considered Ren's my half brother.
Yeah.
You know,
that's
like,
your brother.
Yeah, that's my brother. Yeah, I have 2 brothers. You know,
Yeah.
I have 2 brothers. I have 2 sisters. You know? Steffi and Terry.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yep.
You know? But that's the look I get, you know? When I'm like, yeah, like, you know, my sister's 3 days older than me.
You're like, logically it does make sense, but it's true.
You know, that's how we would get free drinks at the bar when Terry and I would go to the bar when we were younger. You know, it's like, oh yeah. Mom had Terry first, and then, you know, I just needed to stay in a little bit longer, so the doctors let me stay, and here we are. That's why I'm a little tan, because I got baked a little extra, you know, like, and the, like,
dude, what the fuck? And Terry's like white. Okay.
And she was so beautiful.
Yeah, blue eyes, big boobs.
You know, like blonde hair,
yeah.
you know. And she's so smart. Oh
yeah.
my god, she's so amazingly
She used
smart.
to help me with my trigonometry.
Yeah, you know, and she's been at school for like ever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and we're two totally different people, but two totally the same in the same aspect. So, you know, it's just those generalizations that we make. And then you see like a family that's integrated as much as we are, you know, where we have steps and not reals and adopted and fosters and, you know, the kids that I have adopted throughout my journey, you know, through your friends and through different systems that I've worked with. And, you know, family looks very different. You know, while we are a small Hispanic 3-person family,
we have a big family.
We do have a big family because our reach extends out bigger. So
even like friends that you've adopted that I don't really talk to anymore.
Right.
And you're still like, hey, like, how are they doing? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then you'll text them.
Yeah.
Like, it got nothing to do with me.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's still your daughter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Those are my babies. You know, every once in a while I'm like, hey, like, how's Ella Ray doing?
Yeah.
Or, hey, like, have you talked to Octavia lately? Or, you know, like, I know you guys don't talk, but how's Natalie doing? Have you heard from her? Is she doing okay?
Yeah.
You know, and it's just...
Big shout out to Natalie. She just graduated.
Oh, congratulations. It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
You know? So, it's just and see, like, my world stops for my kids, you know? And it doesn't have to be biological or anything. If anybody calls my phone, any kid calls my phone, I'm like, what you need? Let me wrap this up. I'll be right there. Or give me 5. I'm on my way. Or, you know, I'm in the area. Let me go around and turn back around or whatever.
I know Tavia used to call you all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, and we'd talk.
Yeah.
We'd talk for
and
hours.
she would tell me, she'd be like, hey, like, I hope it's okay, but, like, I called your mom. And I'm like, that's your mom, too. Like,
yeah. Yeah.
That got nothing to do with me.
You know?
That's your mom.
Yeah, like, and I have a different relationship with each kid
Yeah.
as a result of that, you know? So, it's just the thing.
Yeah.
So, basic human evolutionary behavior is people tend to favor the protection of their family and friends over the protection of strangers, which is obvious, right?
Yeah.
You're going to trust those that are closest to you versus somebody that you see on the street, okay? So in-group pride can blind its members to the point that out-group prejudice develops, okay? So what that means is when you have groups that are like white supremacists or the KKK or Al-Qaeda, or you know, like something like the Black Panthers movement, you know, like those in-group beliefs about this group is better than them,
Right.
is going to blind itself. It's kind of like, if you look at Hitler, okay, and the way he impacted countries into believing that the reason for the fall of the economy in Germany was all about the Jews. If you just like look at how all of that progressed and the propaganda that he used and the speeches that he made and the things that he was saying, he brainwashed people into believing that this one particular set of people was the reason for the fall of a whole country's economy. And if you say it out loud, you realize, you're like, I mean, like, really? Like, could one group of people have that much power? And you start to learn and see that that's not, there's something else there, you know what I mean? Okay, so maybe it started with a couple of group of people, and then like it expanded to this, and then it had a domino effect and did this, but it wasn't just those people.
Right.
It was all of these other systems that were in play as well. So really like dissecting and taking that out, it takes away that brainwashing aspect of it, because it's a belief system and it's a brainwashing. And brainwashing is not just like, oh, I'm going to talk you into doing this so that you believe this. Brainwashing is everything. We are all brainwashed in one shape or form. We get brainwashed when we go to school. when we go and, get our degrees in whatever that may be. You learn and you have a different perspective on those lessons in order to change the way you think. Counseling is brainwashing. Religion is brainwashing. These cults are brainwashing. How many cult documentaries have we watched?
And you're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and they're like, no, like life is supposed to be like this. Life is supposed to be that I'm one of 17 wives.
Oh my god, I was literally watching Escaping from Polygamy last night when I was trying to fall asleep.
Yeah, dude, and then you look at like the Nexium, cult where they had to give, oh my gosh, what am I thinking of? Evidence of themselves in order to keep them under control, like blackmail. They had to give them blackmail evidence, in order to keep their controls. They ended up getting tattoos, on their pelvic area, to say that they belonged to this one guy and that they were following his beliefs. That's all brainwashing.
Well, I also go to like Playboy,
Oh yeah, because you've been doing research on all of that. Mm-hmm.
And I also, how many times have I looked at a picture and I'm like, oh, she's got highlights or lowlights, or she's got T-slides, like, you know what I mean? It's just because I'm so.
It changes the way you think
with that.
I can look at a picture of a makeup and I'm like, hey, like what do I need to do in order to have like this makeup look? And you're like, Mom, you already do that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Mine doesn't look like that.
But it's just because you don't have like the same features. Like,
your
nose isn't shaped the same way. Like your cheekbones are higher. You don't have the same eyebrows. And I'm like, no, like you literally your eyeliner. Like, that's all that it is. It's just eyeliner. And you're like, it doesn't look the same. And I'm like, well, no, it's because you're not her.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so it's just.
And so it's just a thing. So I don't want you guys to think that brainwashing is just like this really bad thing that we're going to make you do. It's all encompassing. Each new idea, conversations that you have where you see different perspectives, that's brainwashing. Because it teaches you to think a different way. And so you take that new information, integrate it into whatever beliefs that you already have, and then go a different route with it. That is a form of brainwashing. And so that's where that pride and the prejudice comes in, because then you start really believing and siding on with these beliefs without looking at anything else that will question those beliefs. How many times have you gotten into discussions with somebody and they don't want to talk to you? I don't want to have this conversation anymore, because then it's because they have started to see that their path of the belief and your path, it's going to totally make them question their whole world. And we have both had conversations like that, and you're just like, I just haven't, and I do this, I'm so bad at this. I'm like, can I just ask you a question? And then I ask the question and their world has totally like exploded.
And you watch it.
Yeah.
Like,
and you just like, just watching just like the dissolving of this human and their belief system, and oh my god, like why did I even think that? Like it's an unraveling.
It's not that we're trying to be like trying to destroy your world. Like it's we're trying to get you to understand a different perspective,
right,
and a different way to see it. And we're not trying to ruin your belief or anything like that. Like we're just trying to be like, hey, like think about it this way.
But what about this?
Yeah. And that's why we left the church. Like,
yeah.
Because we just saw things differently, and then we started to question, like, well, why did this happen?
Right, and not
what
getting
about
the answers,
this?
or
like,
being told, like, oh, well, you're just supposed to accept it, and that's not.
No.
And so that was why we ended up away from the church, because we had so many different beliefs and so many questions that were unanswered. Not saying that we still don't believe in some of those tenets, not at all, because I think
there are some good things.
Every belief system has some great things in it,
And I wrote down religion for this, and the Christian and Catholic are very different, but they're also very much the same. They go from the same
and that
Bible.
They have the same tenets. Yeah,
They have the same Bible, but they believe different things.
Right.
But they're all based out of one thing.
Right. Yeah. So, and it's just something that changes, and it changes with time.
Yeah, and like our family, like our Mexican side of the family is super Catholic.
Yeah.
But I'm like, ooh, Catholics, like, ooh. but that's just because I've had those bad experiences with those Catholics. And, like, Ramon, or my uncle, your brother, is super Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, he's not, like, sitting there. He's like, so, like,
you gonna go to church?
You gonna go to church with me this weekend?
When was the last time you went to confession?
Yeah, like, when was the last time you, like... And I'm like, what the... He's not like that, but he is Catholic.
Right. So Catholic in that he has St. Michael tattooed in his whole back, you know? And he takes, like, a little, like, pendant with him every time he goes out, you know, overseas or whenever he's deployed. You know, he believes, you know, but he's not that, let me shove it down your throat, you know, kind of aspect of it. So stereotypes are defined as the beliefs we hold about people because of their group membership, which we already covered, right? So prejudice is rooted in the stereotypes we hold against people and the attitudes we have towards those stereotypes. So I have here for a note of the swastika discussion. So as you know, the sign of the swastika, which we'll put up if you guys don't know what a swastika is, anybody who is of, you know, my age and younger sees, or, you know, maybe the the boomers generation. I was like, what came before me? You know, they all see the swastika as a Nazi symbol, right? But that's not what it always was, right? If you look in previous history, I have a picture that I took I was in Thermopolis. I was in Thermopolis. I was running around downtown with Shauna trying to get sponsors for for the rodeo that we were having up there. And we were up there, we were getting sponsors, and we were walking around downtown, and I see this picture of this bakery that's for sale. Well, up on top of the bakery, right along the line of the roof, like right underneath the line of the roof, there's just a line of swastikas, just right along the roof. And I was like, what is going on here? Right? And I snapped a picture and I sent it over to Justin, who informed me that the swastika was a Native American sign, and it was a symbol of continuing good luck. And that makes sense. If you look at a swastika, it looks like it's rotating. Mm-hmm. And it was a symbol of good luck. So he was explaining that he would recover old saddles from like auctions and stuff like that would have the swastika marks on it itself. And that was generally they were given as gifts to say, may you have good fortune and good luck. And they took that sign and changed the meaning of it. Mm-hmm. So this hundreds and hundreds and hundreds year old symbol was transformed into something that was totally different.
Well, I remember like when in school we would get in trouble for drawing a swastika on school buildings. But I mean, I understand what that's vandalism.
Right.
But like,
which is super hard to get off, by the way.
Yeah.
I was part of a TNC group, and we went under and was cleaning up the graffiti that was under the bridges on the south side, and you had to use like paint there, and that was hard work.
And I understand that now, but like we would get in trouble because it was a bad symbol. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I didn't know that about good luck, and so we were drawing it as a bad symbol. Right. But I say we, I was not. I knew many people that were. But like these older people that are also brainwashed into thinking that it was this bad symbol, but didn't take the time to learn about
the history of it. Right. And that their history of it was what they were taught. And that part is true. That part is true, yes. It was used as a Nazi symbol, and they executed millions and millions and millions of Jews and other, Polish and gays and, yes, they did that. That was part of history. 110%.
But they didn't look further.
But also,
right.
There's this part that happened over here, and that's what I meant here. And so I think like that proves the point that we're trying to explain out of this article is those beliefs that yes, the swastika did happen in history and it was in the Nazis and they exterminated millions of Jews. Yes, 110%. You are absolutely right in that.
Mm-hmm.
But these other people are also absolutely right in that symbol was used for these things, and it was given, as gifts, as a gift of prosperity and wealth and continuing and all of these things. So they are also right. Mm-hmm. But if you put them together, who's wrong?
Right.
Nobody's wrong. Right? And that leads us into our next point, that people feel they're justified in having and holding these beliefs, that they have a right to their opinion and that their opinion is always the right opinion. And they're right. Mm-hmm. 90% of the time, they're right. These things did happen. But what else happened?
Right.
And that's what the other people are looking at. Yeah, those things happen, but these things also happened.
Right.
And so I think that leaves the door open for discussion, but the discussion never happens. That's when the fighting starts. Right? Well, you're wrong and I'm right. No, you're wrong and I'm right. Not knowing
that they're both right.
That they're both right. So I think of that cartoon of the 6 is written, right? Perspective. Sorry, just writing this as I come to it so I don't forget it. So there's this cartoon and there's one guy, there's a 6 on the floor, right? And there's one guy at one end saying this is a 6. And then there's another guy at the other end saying this is a 9. And they're not wrong.
Yeah.
Neither one of them are wrong. So these thoughts are more likely to develop and persist where people in groups are discriminatory in nature, where the out groups have different clashing values and behaviors from the in groups, and when people heavily identify with the groups they're members of. And so that leads me to like the KKK or the white supremacists.
Right.
There are certain religions where they absolutely hate the cross. Mm-hmm. Right? Because how are you going to worship and make this godly symbol out of something that Jesus died on?
Right.
Totally get that perspective. I always had that question too. But then there are other religions that absolutely love the cross because it is a symbol of Christ. Right?
Because he died on it.
Right? So which one's right and which one's wrong? None of them are wrong because they both have a different perspective of it.
Yeah.
So the theory of categorization, which is a process that encourages people to see other people purely as individuals rather than members belonging to a category, which is shown to reduce prejudice and stereotype solutions. Okay, so that's where we get to that. So decategorization becomes difficult when the characteristics that tie them with their group, such as linguistic, cultural, physical, and geographical differences, tend to be hard to ignore. So we were talking earlier about Hispanic features, mm-hmm. right? The Mexican features, the Native American features. I was working in a hotel once in Cheyenne, and it was the beginning of the month, so we had all of the Native Americans come in because they win at gambling or they get their checks or whatever. So they came into Cheyenne and they were spending some money. I had this Native American man come up to me and says, "You're Native, aren't you?" And I'm working house cleaning,
yeah,
right? And I'm just like, yeah, part. And he's like, "I can tell." And I was curious, so I said, "How?" And he said, your cheekbones, your high cheekbones, and the width of your nose are all Native American features, mm-hmm. right? And that was when I started to learn, like, what features I got from where. I got my cheekbones and my good hair from my Native. I got my skin color and my eye color and my hair color from my German side.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my Spanish is the shape of my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And the Hispanic is like the width of my body. I'm always going to be wide. I'm never going to fit in the BMI box.
Yeah.
Because my body frame will just not allow it. So I'm always.
That's why I've always hated the BMI, is because they don't take account of different body types.
Right. Well, the BMI was created using primarily Caucasian males.
Yeah. Hello.
Because women were not allowed to be part of those scientific studies. If you research that, women were not allowed to be part of those scientific studies, which is why it's coming out more and more that women are struggling with their health journey, because all of the studies that have happened up until this point
Are all from men.
So we weren't studied, and so we get discriminated against when we do have to go to the doctor. You know, how many times, I cannot tell you how many times I'm like, hey, like I've got this going on and this going on, and I hear, maybe you should lose weight. That's the problem. It's because you need to lose weight.
too.
And you're like, what the fuck? I have an earache.
Yeah.
What does that have to do with my body weight?
Yeah, I get it too.
And it happened a couple weeks ago when I went in for allergies.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, my ear is itching so much that I am bleeding out of my ear. Well, maybe you need to see your weight loss surgeon because you need to get your weight under control. What the fuck? One doesn't have to do with the other.
Yeah.
What does my fucking ear have to do with my body weight?
Yeah. I'm the same way. I went in for me passing out, and they're like, well, you need to lose weight. And I'm like,
yeah, it's
Okay.
a huge thing.
and I remember crying the whole way home.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is torture. And it's just that thought process. Oh, because you're big, you have health problems. Because you're big, you are sick.
Yeah. What?
My doctor at UW is like, you are the healthiest person I see. You have no comorbidities. It's just your weight is high.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all. Outside of that,
And-
you're healthy.
And like
You have your thyroid under control, you're healthy.
Yeah. And like, because I have my birth control and I'm getting weight, and so they're like, well, like, you need to lose weight. I'm like, but you guys want me on birth control.
Right.
Like,
Right.
and all these birth controls make you gain weight.
Right.
So how do they equal these out?
Right.
Like, you have to be on birth control if you don't want kids. You have to be on birth control to study out your periods. But it's going to make you gain weight, and then you're going to be unhealthy. What?
Well,
What's the win?
Crazy weird thing, what if we learn how to start reading our cycles?
Yeah.
And know what the signs are of each stage so that we can read our bodies better to know when we
What's
should
going
and when
on?
we shouldn't have sex.
Right.
Fucking weird,
Yeah.
right? Because that is not ever an
And
option.
I remember going in to get my birth control, and they're like, well, like, you can't have sex for the next, like, fucking 3 weeks. And I'm like, they're like, or you could just go straight absent for not having sex, and then you won't have to have birth control.
Yeah, that's not an option. It's not an option. You know?
I'm not very sexually active, but also, like, that's asking something that's not
feasible.
Yeah.
That's like asking someone with an eating disorder
not to eat.
to not eat. What?
Just don't eat if you have a unhealthy relationship with food.
Yeah. 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 That's the thing. And this is but these are the thought processes that we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
It's those, I've seen this with these issues. So it's always going to be this, right? It's always going to be, if you are overweight, that you're unhealthy. So you need to do this in order to be healthy. But I'm already healthy.
Yeah.
right? So,
but you're not, because you're not fitting in this box.
Right. Yeah, and so it's the same thing with these belief systems,
Mm-hmm.
you know, with the Nazis and the white supremacists, you know, like all of these things mean this, and they did this, and they said this, and, you know, they took away this, and, you know, it's not right.
Yeah.
That's not right. So the process of recategorization highlights the idea that we move beyond the mentality of us versus them and moves toward the mentality of we, that we are all part of one humankind.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that is super important, especially in today's day and age. There's this TikTok that says, it was a younger, like Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and he got on TikTok and said, why is Gen Z not part of the race wars? And like 6 or 7 like Gen Z's like had to like stitch it, right? And it's because that wasn't a thing for us, you know? We were playing with the white kids and the Mexican kids and the black kids and, you know, the Puerto Rican kids and the Dominican kids because they lived in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
You know? And we didn't have the internet, so we played with who we played with.
Yeah.
You know?
And who you could.
And who we had access to. It wasn't because we couldn't, you know, get on an online chat with, you know, Ginger who lives, you know, 400 miles away from us and she believes the same way I do. No, we had to hang out with Kenny the fucking idiot who couldn't get away from his goddamn dog, and Jeanette who, you know, was really super nice but her mom was a dick.
Right.
You know, and Gary who was always the kid who stunk. But he always had really good toys, you know?
Yeah.
So we always hung out with him. And they were all different colors, you know? So that wasn't a thing for us.
Right.
You know? So that's how we don't play in that race war. It's because it wasn't a thing. We didn't have that option to have that thing.
Yeah.
Now, am I saying that racism didn't exist back then? That's not what I'm saying.
No.
Because segregation clearly, obviously happened before that. You know, we had talked briefly about in our Fear and Bigotry episode that, you know, my dad is black. Well, the man who raised me is black and his wife is white. And they've been together for 40-some years. And so they went through all of that together. And I would love to sit down with her one day and really talk about her experience with that. You know, and his experience with that. Because, you know, he was a black man and he was older and she was a younger white woman.
Yeah.
They had to have seen some shit
Yeah.
and have some great story. Not great stories, but
some great experiences.
yeah,
that
you know.
may have sucked in the moment, but are great stories now.
Right. You know, stereotypes, biases, and prejudice are ingrained in our everyday lives, whether we notice it or not, and that's that Mexicans are hard workers and Asians are smart. So teachers and educators must take active steps to reduce stereotype threat, which would help reduce external and internal prejudice among those exposed to stereotype threat. As long as there is prejudice, there will be injustice, right? So in our high school, we had, I forget what it was called. I want to say it was like International Day or International World Day, which would be kind of redundant. I don't know. It was a thing. So at McCormick, we had it all set up where all of the different clubs, right? So like Spanish club, German club, French club, all the different languages that we had. We had a Russian club. We had all of these different different groups that we had, right? And for International Day, every group would be in the cafeteria, okay? And each one would have a table. And we all had different foods.
Oh, wow.
From each culture. And so we would go in and we would be like, oh man, you know? And so like the Spanish, you know, they had like
Tamales.
Tamales and I'm trying to think, oh my gosh, honey and sopapillas, right? And so they had like the sopapillas, and then the French had like the donuts, and you know, and then like the Italian club, they would have like the flan, and you know, like all of, and I'm sure I mixed up the countries, I'm so sorry, but they all had different things that you could go try and learn from each culture.
Flan is Mexican.
Flan is Mexican food, I'm so sorry. Gelato is what we're thinking of. Yeah, so they, you could go experience those different cultures and really understand and be like, oh man, like this is so nice and this is really cool, and really learn from those different things.
So for Girl Scouts, we did it.
we did because each of us had to pick a country, right? And ours was Canada. Canada, yeah. And we all had to make little things from each country, right? And so, do you remember what we made? No.
Something with maple.
Yeah. So we had those little red felt with the white maple leaf in it, right? And there were pins.
Yes.
Yeah. But each troop had to research their country. It had to have a presentation on it, right?
Ours is pretty cool.
And so you had to research like the animals and the habitation and what kind of people and what the economy looked like and what the flag was and the state tree and like what food they liked and all of these things. It was a big research project. And then at the end, we all were in this big old room.
It's like a stadium, like not a stadium, like like a gym.
Yeah, and they all got to go around and because you had to make a minimum of these little sample things from each country, and each girl got a different thing, right, from each country. And so I think those activities are what's really going to break those barriers. And those activities are what I'm implementing into the program that I'm writing because it is so important. And it's so important to see those opposite viewpoints, not to argue about it. But to come in with those open perspectives of doing those things. So the last note I have here is there will continue to be unfair treatment, tighter limitation of opportunities, and a continuation of pain, struggle, and psychological torture that targets of prejudice undergo throughout their lives. So I'm just going to wrap up with this. The biggest lesson I learned about segregation and prejudice is I over E. This was a huge lesson that I learned in this group that we were involved in called PLTI, Parent Leaders Teaching Initiative. And this group taught how to implement community programs that better lives for children. One of the exercises that we had to do, and we split the room into 2 different groups, and this was so hard for everybody considering we were all different colors, all different races, all different classes, all different economic, status. This activity was so hard because the room got split up into 2 groups. And this side of the room had to argue for segregation, and this side of the room had to argue for integration. And we had to take on a perspective that maybe we didn't think of, and we had to argue for that side. And by the end of it, we were all in tears because we were either mad or emotional, or we were fighting with ourselves, or we were speaking not our truths. That we were all that was very psychologically traumatizing. Yeah. But it was so easy to get wrapped up in what was right and what you thought was wrong, and in saying and not taking on the other perspective, but you had to listen to that other perspective so that you had something to counter that with. And so it was this debate thing that we had to force ourselves to really look at the other side, and it was so hard. And we actually started arguing at the end there, not realizing that we were arguing for the same thing because it was so hard to argue for segregation when none of us wholeheartedly believed in segregation.
Yeah.
And it was so hard to take our personal feelings out of it because, well, you said this, but he was saying those things because he had to play that argument in order for us to come in. And so it was so hard on so many different levels. But that was how we had to learn the lesson of intellect over emotion. And that lesson was specifically to get us into that high riled emotional state.
So you could still think and not worry about your emotions.
Right. And that was the lesson that we were supposed to learn, is how to have intellect over emotion, how to have that logic over that emotional response. And that lesson has stayed with me in everything and has helped me get job promotions and has helped me with raising my kids and, you know, being in crazy situations at different jobs that I've had. So I really think that when we come across these people that have different beliefs than we do, that I over E definitely needs to come into play, because those conversations will not get anywhere if you are constantly riled up in that emotional state, right? You have to be able to step out of that emotion in order to make a logical, understood argument or perspective or statement or, you know, whatever narrative in order to explain somebody your point of view. And you cannot do that when you're emotional.
Yeah.
And that allows for these conversations to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would highly, highly, highly suggest watching American History X. That movie really brought to light a lot of this decategorization that they talk about in really rehabbing people with that come from, you know, the white supremacy or the KKK beliefs in order to integrate into normal society. And, you know, and I'm not just saying, you know, just the KKK white supremacy. I'm also saying other intense belief systems like those. So, any final thoughts about all of this? No? Have you come across anything like the segregation or the thought processes that keep people apart?
I haven't eaten, so my brain's not really working.
Okay, all right.
I'm sorry.
You're okay. How do you feel about all of this? Is this a hot topic button for you?
Yeah.
Yeah? Why?
Just because, like, with both me and Anthony being mixed, like, I hate, like, I used to be so scared of, like, when the KKK had their meeting here.
Yeah, the leads had their meeting here.
And I was terrified.
The NAACP
Yeah.
and the head of the KKK had their meeting here in Casper.
And I was
years ago
terrified.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, I'll die. Like, because I'm not white.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not strictly white. I'm not. And that was a fear of mine. Like, and it's just, like, and they weren't even around town. You know what I mean? Like, they went to one place and then left. It was just a meeting spot. But I didn't think about that. I was like, well, like, there's going to be fucking crosses on fire, like, you know what I mean? And then they're going to fucking raid houses looking for people that aren't white. Like, and it was just because I was terrified because of these stories that I've been told about the KKK. And I didn't know anything about the KKK. And
we had to have some serious discussions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just because of that fear of me not being full white.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Do you still carry that fear?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
But not really. Because I look white.
Yeah. Do you fear the non-acceptance from, like, the bio family since we don't look like them?
Yeah.
Yikes. Was that your hip?
Mm-hmm.
Yikes. Your whole body
shifts.
Just, yeah.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Mostly from, like, I don't really get it from Ramon a lot.
No.
That fear's not there.
Yeah.
But, like, with Grandma, yes. Because, like, when we're together, like, people look at her like she's kidnapped me.
Yeah, because Grandma's really dark.
Yeah.
She's like way
and
dark.
they're like, no, she's like, no.
She looks like an elder Native American.
She looks like the girl from
lady.
Moana.
Yeah.
The grandma from Moana.
Oh yeah, she does. Yeah, she
Yes.
does. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm.
And so she's dark. You know what I mean? And she's like, no, like, this is my granddaughter. And people are like,
what? Yeah.
I'm like, Like, we literally have the same last name.
Yeah.
But people don't think about that. And so that's terrifying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and like when we saw Simone in Walmart, and Grandma was like, this is Juana's daughter. And she was like,
Simona.
There you go.
Yeah, Tia Simona.
And she was like, oh my God, you're so beautiful. And then she was just like watching me this whole time, like terrified for her life because I'm white and she's dark. You know what I mean? Like, and so she had her eyes on me the whole time. And I'm just like looking at the fucking pasta. You know what I mean? Because I didn't want to put her in fear because of my color.
Right.
You know
and I think you probably misread that because Tia Simona loves me to death.
Yeah, and when we saw her at Family Dollar the next time, like, she was all over me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I probably did just misread that, but I didn't want to put anybody in fear because of me.
Right. So that's something you hold on to.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
that's called trauma.
And it's that racial trauma, you know. The struggle is real, especially when you are of two, races. And a lot of people argue for non-integration because of those things.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with that at all. I think that's something that can be worked through, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's just that ease of fear. You know, that segregation breeds ignorance and ignorance breeds fear. Yeah. It's huge, and it's a big deal. It's a big deal for everybody.
Yeah.
Whether it impacts you personally or not.
Right.
You know, it could impact you personally in the person that you love. You know, I talked about the loving case and fear and bigotry.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a huge deal for me.
Yeah.
You know, so I suggest you go out today and do something that you probably wouldn't do today. You know, come outside of your zone and do something that takes away this ignorance breeds fear. You know, do something. Say hello. Send a smile. You know.
I smile at everybody.
Do something. Do something. So, all right, we just want to wrap up. We want to thank Justin Bag for being a sponsor. Thank you for joining us. Join us for the next episode where we talk about clear and cleanse.
Do you see the way that landed?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I need food.
Where we talk about clear and cleanse, where we take a second to do a cleansing breath and then focus on the future.
Oh my God.
We will have a guest. We will have our first guest in the studio. So Shauna will be here next week. She's so excited.
And I'm sure Allie Ray's going to be on here because she just moved back.
So we will start the next realm of guests that we will have here. I think the next 4 or 5 have guest speakers, so super excited about that. So we will step in.
4 or 5?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Who?
Because we have, I think it's Shauna, Tara, Danielle, and then Tara, and then Shauna.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think so. It's like
everybody that I'm comfortable.
Yeah, so everybody is in a line. So it's going to be super awesome and interesting. So it will be a super upbeat because we always tend to be like that when we have guests. So definitely join us. We are going to step it up. So any questions, comments, concerns, email or message on YouTube or any of our other social medias. We have smilegirl.be-nervous@gmail.com. No punctuations, all one word. And drop us a note on YouTube or Facebook. We love reading comments. We love making comments. We love interacting with our viewers out there. So if you want to be a speaker, also just give us a heads up. Let us know. And we will be here. We'll invite you in. We'll let you know what show we're going, and we'll be like 1, 2, 3. So we're good to go. So thank you so much for joining us this week. Please go make a big difference out in the world today. So we love you all, and we will see you later. All right?
Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye.
Oh, I lost my mouth.